Welcome back to the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. I am your host, Sal Guardo. With me, as always, is former defensive lineman Kyle Searle, former quarterback Kurt Hess, and former director of football operations Dan Kopp. Well, we had a snoozer, but luckily it came out on our side as the Youngstown State Penguins beat Indiana State 19-7. We are definitely going to dive into that and deep into the playoff run, where we fit, are we in, are we out? And then, of course, the biggest game of the year as the defending champs, number one in the country, South Dakota State, visits the Ice Castle. But before we get into that, as always, we are on YouTube Live. You can always tune in and hit the chat box. Any questions, comments, Kyle Searle is monitoring that, and give us your predictions on this upcoming weekend. We are on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast, monitored by Kurt Hess. Of course, you can please message him or comment on anything you may have to partake on the show. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And as always, we are on podcasts. Anywhere you get your podcast, please subscribe, like, share. Definitely helps promote the show. We definitely thank you for all your support. Diving in, Youngstown State again in a snooze fest, in my opinion. The Penguins going up against Indiana State. It did not start off very well. Started off very slow in the first quarter. Indiana State strikes first on a 56-yard pass from Cade Chambers. In Indiana State, Sycamores are up 7-0. Penguins answer right before the end of the quarter. Mitch Davison runs from 18 yards out to tie it 7-7. And that is the only score of the first half, 7-7. Going into the third, the Penguins will kick a field goal. The Penguins will kick another field goal, making it 13-7. And then finally, just to close it out, as we start to get nervous, but Indiana State's definitely in the game. Fourth quarter, 7 minutes left. Brungard runs 37 yards, and the two-point conversion is no good, making it 19-7, and that is how the game will end, on a 19-7 run. That being said, I know there's a little frustration among my co-host, but I will probably take it to the least frustrated person, Kyle Searle, on his breakdown of the game.
Yeah, right, Sal. Some good things to say about the defense this week. This was a game where the offense didn't play like we're used to them playing over the last few weeks with the high scoring, potent offense we're used to seeing. So the defense definitely did a good job keeping Indiana State out of the end zone. I will say that's what you expect from a defense like we have when you're playing a team that's 0-8, when you're playing a team that's struggling to find themselves. Kept the Sycamores under 200 yards of total offense. Won the battle. We had 2 takeaways, 3 if you count the failed fourth down conversion that the Sycamores had. Big key here for the defense was 0 third down conversions for the Sycamores. I think they had 13 attempts. They converted 0. So that is absolutely dominant. 4 sacks on the day for the defense. Another great performance from the defensive line. So those are the good aspects of the game. They bailed out the offense. They had some great defensive production. Now, what I absolutely just cannot get over is all these penalties that we seem to have on defense, whether they're pass interferences or jumping off sides. We jumped off sides 2 out of the first 3 plays of the game. 2 out of the first 3 plays of the game. The first play was declined because it went for 19 yards. And then we had, I think, 5 offsides penalties. One of them was in the fourth quarter when the game was still kind of within reach for Indiana State. There's still some time on the clock. One was in the fourth quarter that gave Indiana State the first down. You got to clean that shit up. like I said at the beginning of the season, you can get away with that stuff when you're playing teams like Valparaiso and some lower level non-conference teams and bottom barrel Missouri Valley conference teams. But when are you going to just wake up and realize that Indiana State was in the game and still was in striking distance because of that penalty? And I have said penalties will kill the playoff push for this team. That's what I got to say.
Curdy, offense.
Yeah,
Well,
I know, and I know Searle, takes a lot to heart for, the defense a little bit with penalties and stuff, but, offensively, we did not help the defense much at all. And going into an 0-8 Indiana State where we talked about how it's a weird place to play, strange things happen, you don't really get into a rhythm. I was really hoping offensively we would, rise above that. And find a good rhythm heading into this week, which is probably our toughest game of the year outside Ohio State. Um, just not a lot of rhythm like we've seen. And the past couple weeks, there's been some issues here, some issues there. We've kind of relied on our offense to be that steady force. We've been able to either run the ball. If we haven't been able to run the ball, they've given us some stuff in the passing game. We've been able to be successful in the passing game. And, when you go back and watch the game and you look at some of the statistics, we didn't play bad. We didn't do a lot. So credit to Indiana State up front. I think we texted during the group text, like Indiana State's front seven is probably the strength of their team. They really did not give us a lot of options in the run game. I think both our backs averaged about 2.5 yards per carry. Mitch spread the ball around a little bit, but outside of, a play here or, Bo's touchdown run, we didn't make a lot of big explosive plays. So they did a good job of keeping us in front and limiting us into something that we have talked about for the last 5 or 6 weeks, that's our strength. We have talent. We have firepower. It was not on display in Terre Haute at all. So very, very concerning, I think, as an offensive staff and probably for the players' perspective is, crap, guys, we were supposed to have our best game of the year against an 0-8 team, go out and get our big road win, which, a win's a win, heading into this week. So I know for sure in that staff meeting room, I know for sure practice all week, that offense is not just going through the motions this week, and they may be throwing in some extra stuff. Maybe they're saving some stuff. We talked about that too for the Jackrabbits, but it's always good going into your biggest game of the year when you've got a nice flow and a nice rhythm, and I think we hit a little bit of adversity. If we can only average 2.5 yards per carry against Indiana State, what are we going to do against the Jackrabbits front seven? Because I watched some of them boys, and I watched North Dakota State highlights in that game. They make North Dakota State look not good. Now, I know North Dakota State's entire program is folding, according to Sal, but they make North Dakota State not look good up front, and we haven't seen that in a long time. So if we can't run the ball or get the run game going against the Sycamores, we're in for one this week, boys.
DK, thoughts?
Yeah, obviously everyone has their take on those things and some good points. We've talked about the penalties. We won on the road, our first, road win of the year. We did talk last week a little bit about how Indiana State was improving, and I think their coach is a good coach. One of the points I thought was I was never, that's me saying, I was never really nervous we were going to lose the game. I thought this is a game where we showed the recruiting difference. We were just a more talented football team, didn't play like it at times, but I was happy to see that. Like, they're at the bottom of the league, them and Western, and we have more talent than them. I thought a couple of things offensively that I just want to point out real quick. We have been adjusting to what teams give us. They loaded the box. Kurt, like you said, their D-line is pretty stout. So we were throwing those little, quick hitch routes, bubbles, whatever you want to call it, out to Max. That's like an extension of the running game. As you guys know, it's a glorified sweep out to the field or into the boundary. Credit our wide receivers were blocking. I was glad to see the tight end Serrano back. It was good to see Bo Brungard run. I mean, that's another thing a team's going to have to prepare for. Mitch had a touchdown run. Trying to find those positives against a team that was 0-8. I thought we looked flat when we were texting each other. I go back to that trip I mean, all of us have been on it. I think it's a hard place to play well. I think it just is. Like, I don't know how many people were at the game, but come on, man. You guys watch on the TV. That's just a hard place to travel and play. I'm not making any excuses, but we looked flat. I don't know if that was part of it.
4,700, by the way, Dan.
How many?
4,700.
And that might be 4,700 tickets sold. I don't know if 4,700 people were there, but that's a good thanks, Sal, because I was wondering how many people were there. But I don't have the explanation. Kurt, you said it. We weren't as explosive as we've been, and Kyle nailed it. I mean, we can't keep jumping off sides. I don't know what the answer there is then for that, but I'd like to give some kudos out to the running back coach Jeremy Larkin. We haven't really talked about maybe him a little bit, but how about we have that two-headed monster between Tyshawn and Dre. They come in and out of the game. They both know what they're doing. There's not a lot. I mean, you guys know that's not easy to do, to be rotating two running backs at a time. And I'm just trying to look for what we did right in winning this game on the road. And I've always said going to Terre Haute, Indiana is not a fun 6.5, 7 hour bus ride with no crowd. That's my take on the game. We won, but yeah, we didn't look real sharp.
You're calling the running back. You've been calling it for that. I guess on defense we call it a 20T personnel with the two tailback duo at the same time. I wonder if we'll bring that out or not.
I would love to see that, like a split backs and gun, and and with the way Mitch ran and the way Bo can run, if we get three people back there, maybe we're saving that. Yeah, maybe we're saving that. But I don't care what defense you are and how good you're on defense. If you got to try and defend three guys running the ball, you can load the box all you want. That's hard to defend. It's just flat out. So,
Right. And one thing we talked about on this podcast last week, or at least I pointed out, prior to last weekend, we were undefeated at home, yet to win a game on the road. And I was actually listening to another podcast about another team that very similar situation, had not won a game on the road yet. And their takeaway, they made valid points. They said, whether it's the coaches or the players, going on the road, as we all know here, is so much different than playing at home. And we don't know what it is, as a coach, as a player, whatever your thing is to get you mentally prepared and in the game, you need to figure it out. And whatever that is, get it together. And that's for both coaches and players alike, whatever it is on the road. Now, to Dan's point of find a positive, we did say Indiana State was slowly getting better. Even though they haven't won a game yet, they were getting more competitive every week. And it was almost like they were at the peak at a terrible time because they're playing us. And luckily we escaped, so we're not that team. Indiana State, I think, is going to win one game this year. And luckily it wasn't against us. They are looking a little bit better every week. But we were clearly the better team, and we also talked about looking ahead. We said looking ahead, it's a thing, and it was scary. And maybe we were looking ahead. Maybe Coach Troy didn't want to put anything on film for the Jackrabbits to see, so he was being as conservative as possible. It's all speculation. We don't know, but the game. I hate when coaches say this, but the game is what it is. It happened. And it is what it is. But
didn't Kurt call this a trap game? Kurt called this a trap game a long time ago.
And for a little bit it was looking that way. We don't want it to feel that way, but it's like, Sal, great point. I remember as a player, and I'm sure people struggle with this now, is as a coach, like, do you have a lot of meetings to keep the guys focused, or are you draining your players mentally because you have so many meetings? I remember feeling that way. Cyril and I had that conversation, like, every time we went on the road, it's like, damn, we got so many meetings. But, for Kyle and I, we're doing like what you guys said, which is we're getting ourselves focused. We're having our walkthroughs. If we didn't have that stuff, there may have been some guys on our roster that are playing around and they're getting into trouble. I mean, you guys got stories of guys getting into trouble with hotels. Like, that's what happens if you don't keep. So it's hard to balance that stuff, and hopefully the coaching staff is creating a culture where they have guys that are internally getting focused and intrinsically motivating themselves. But that's tricky. We talked about it too. Indiana State, you don't even know what sideline we're going to be on because they switch us every other time that we're there. And we even texted in the group text on Saturday, like, wait, were we on that side? I think we were this year, but I don't think we were that year. So you never even know where you're going to stand during the game when you go there.
Yeah, you guys brought up a really good point. It made me think about this a little more. Remember, and be honest, especially, all three of you, a quick, honest opinion. When you watched film of a team we're getting ready to play, this is an 0-8 football team. We know we're better than them, and you're watching film. Are you thinking, man, look at these guys. I mean, I threw like this all over northern Iowa. Come on. And Sal, I remember times you used to tell me when we were getting ready to play someone, and you'd be like, bro, a couple of the guys came up to me and they're like, man, come on, this Valparaiso team, they're not. And Sal would say what a coach should say. Hey, man, you got to prepare like you're playing Ohio State. And in their mind, they're walking out the door going, really? Come on. So maybe, and then you get on a bus for 7 hours. You're miserable. You go to that hotel, and Kurt, you said it. Are there too many meetings? Are the coaches thinking, if I let these guys relax for a minute, we could talk about a trap game, and then you go to that stadium. With all due respect to that university, come on, guys, and it's a hard place to go. That's why I think the coach Mallory's done a hell of a job there. Right. A week ago, we were talking about they almost beat North Dakota, right? North Dakota scored. How many points did they score in North Dakota? 30 some. And Kyle
36 or something.
And then they had Southern Hill. They had Southern Hill on the ropes.
Yeah, and Kyle hit it on the head. Kyle, how many they had? They were 0 for on third down conversions against us.
0 for 13. 0 for 13.
0 for 13, and we held them to under 200 yards of total offense. And Kurt called it months ago, trap game, and that's what it looked like to me. And thankfully, we won.
Weird. Win's a win in the Valley on the road.
Amen.
I guess, so.
Amen.
But again, on the road, we're not the top seed in the playoffs. Assuming we make it there, so we're going to have to go on the road. It's something we're going to have to do. We're ready to lock this one up.
Yeah,
let's definitely leave this behind us before we get Cyril riled up again. All right, over to Curdy. I didn't even ask yet on IG Penguins and NFL. I don't know if you have anything to share.
Yeah, Broncos were on a bye week, so we didn't see Jaleel this week. Ogletree, Drew Ogletree playing for the Colts. Colts picked up a big win against the Panthers. He had another catch. Not yet fantasy relevant for us, all of our fantasy guys. But I think the big one in the NFL for us this week was kind of a homecoming for Kevin Rader, a guy that we all, saw in the weight room. I think he redshirted our senior year, so he was close with the program, wasn't getting playing time, but love to see that guy develop, man. I think he's a Pittsburgh guy, isn't he, from PA? So kind of a homecoming for him. It was good to see him on Instagram this week. He talked about, I think he was with the Steelers for a while, but kind of a homecoming when you're not on an active roster, or you're not on a practice squad, and you get picked up by the Titans and you're headed back home. You got family and friends. So big thing for Raider this past week. I know that they lost. Pittsburgh continues with Coach Tomlin. They just continue to find a way to win, even though Kenny Pickett's just awful. But love seeing his family and friends giving him shout outs. We hope him the best. A lot of the IG feedback after the game, Sal, and we kind of talked about it, was just got to clean up the penalties. What are we going to do about these penalties in these big games that really matter? I'll talk about it a little bit later, but in a game with South Dakota State, if you have penalties, if you have missed assignments and mental errors here and there, all it takes is one or two, and you're really going to be chasing the score against these guys. So talked about most of the feedback that I got. I don't know if you guys want to talk about penalties or errors or missed assignments anymore, but that was a lot of the feedback that we got this week on social media.
I think we hit it. I don't know if you guys want to keep hitting the dead horse.
I think we kind of talked about it, and we'll talk about how important it is once we preview this next game too.
Yeah, and the South Dakota State breakdown. All right, thank you, Curdy.
Yep.
I'm hitting my transmission. Recapping around the rest of the Valley on how everyone else did. Guys, just to recap with you again, I went back. I actually have 2 points, not one. So I have 2 points. Dan has one. Kurt Stroll has one. Kurt's still sitting at 4. We actually have a 4-way tie on our pick, so none of us get a point this week. Everything stands the same. It was actually really impressive. Everyone kind of had like that one pick that no one else picked that sort of stood out. But anyway, as we went down in the breakdown, Youngstown State beats Indiana State 19-7, but does not cover. Indiana State wins on the point spread. North Dakota, Murray State. North Dakota wins 45-31, but another one they did not cover, so Murray State will win on the points. South Dakota being a underdog at Southern Illinois, they win on the money line 14-7 South Dakota. Western Ill is at Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa rolls 50-6 and Northern Iowa covers. Iowa State at Missouri State. Iowa State wins 36-35 but does not cover. Murray State wins on the points. North Dakota State at the number one South Dakota State. South Dakota State wins and covers 33-16. And then our out of conference in the Big Sky, Sacramento State at Montana. Montana wins 34-7. They win and cover. And then Furman at Chattanooga, which is another big playoff potential run, as Furman is actually number 2 in the country now, I believe. Furman wins, even though they were an underdog. They won the money line 17-14. And guys, the spreads were 1 and 2 points off for a couple of these games. It's gotten pretty, I guess, with the more games that go on, the closer and better these stats get. Really impressive. Before we kind of move on to the top 25, I don't know if y'all saw any other games on the weekend, FCS or FBS level, worth mentioning. It was actually a really fun weekend of football. Other than the Penguins, it was a lot going on. We cool?
We cool.
Yeah, we're good.
Going through the top 25, so everyone knows the stats performance top 25 is different from the coaches. On the update on where the Missouri Valley lays, of course, South Dakota State 9-0 remains number 1. South Dakota is number 6. North Dakota 10. Southern Ill 11. North Dakota State 12. Northern Iowa 15. And your Youngstown State Penguins number 22. Flipping the page over on the coaches poll, though. Again, very similar situation, except Northern Iowa was all the way down to number 20, and Youngstown State is not ranked on the coaches poll. So that's the breakdown on the top 25, which is now something that the committee uses on the playoffs, which we are going to actually dive into the playoffs now. Quick look, and I told you guys I'm going to go in depth. Should I start and y'all comment, or y'all want to dive in?
Let's just have a conversation about it.
Okay. So I really want to kind of source my source, which is Sam Herder. Sam Herder has a podcast called CVS Football Talk, and he had an episode earlier last week where the Montana AD, who's the chair of the playoff committee, he basically explained how they picked their teams. And it was very interesting on how they did it. And based on what he said, I took it and I went through every single FCS team on where it fits. The first thing he said was there's 24 spots, as we all know. There's 10 auto bids. So there's obviously no say. So on that 24, 10, which are the 10 that win their conference, they automatically get in. Then there's 14 at large. He said at that point in time, there's 10 of them, 10 on the committee. Those 10 will decide who are the 14 at large bids. So 14 people get in. And what they'll do is they'll select their 14 at large. They may or may not pick 14. They may only pick 10 teams. They may pick more than 14 teams. They'll say these are the teams that need to get in. And then when that team gets flashed on the board, say, hey, Youngstown State, you need 7 votes to get in. And that's how they start. If Youngstown only has 6 of the 10 votes, they'll set Youngstown State aside and they'll continue to fill in the 14 spots. Once they go through all the teams and they say, all right, we only have 12 listed, then they'll cycle back through to figure out who those 2 are. So that being said, there's 14 at large. What I did is I went through each conference, and I'll just rattle this off as quickly as possible. I put the auto bids aside, and I said, all right, who, and I was very liberal in doing this, who actually has an outside chance of making it? In the Big Sky, it's very black and white. They're going to get 3 teams in. Idaho, Montana State, Sacramento State. The Big Sky OVC, which merged, and again, I'm being very liberal, Gardner-Webb has a chance to be an at-large. That's 4. The CAA, they have a chance of having, and again, it has to play out, but there's 3. Because Elon and Richmond still play each other. The winner of that game would be the 3rd team that gets at large. So I see 3 coming out of that conference. Then I'm going to skip over the Missouri Valley for now. I see no one out of the Northeast. Patriot, Lafayette might get an at-large, sitting at 72. Southern has Chattanooga and Western Carolina. And then Sanford actually plays Mercer. So that's probably the winner of that will go. So that's 3 out of that conference. And then I don't see anyone else. So that being said, I picked 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did I say that right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Is that 8 out of your 14?
12. I got
Is that
12.
8 out of your 14 then?
No, I got 12 out of my 14,
Okay,
right?
12
Without
out
the
of your
Missouri
14.
Valley, right? Not talking about Missouri Valley. That potentially could have an outside chance with a 7-4 record or better. So then you go into the Valley, and the Valley is extremely complicated because the next 2 weeks are very convoluted. I think South Dakota and Northern Iowa are locks. They're definite locks. North Dakota is not a lock. They have South Dakota and Illinois State, which can both beat them and knock them out of the playoffs. So if you're Youngstown State, you're fighting for people who might be in the playoffs to get their butts knocked out. You want North Dakota to lose to South Dakota, and you want them to lose to Illinois State. North Dakota State, they're another one. They have Southern Illinois and Northern Iowa to play. You're rooting for North Dakota State to lose those 2 games and get knocked out. Southern Illinois, they play North Dakota State. That is our key win. If you look at last year, we don't have anything on our resume that's like, wow, they beat this team. Southern Illinois is the only team that we can say, wow, on our resume. We need Southern Illinois to beat North Dakota State to be a landmark win. So there's 2 for sure out of the Missouri Valley going. There could be 2 more. If that's North Dakota, Youngstown State, Southern Illinois, North Dakota State, it's tough. There could be either 4 or 5, but that's my breakdown. We're better off. And let's just say we only win one of the next 2 games. We all know we win this weekend we're in. If for some reason we lose, we're going to need help from these other Missouri Valley bubble teams losing. That's North Dakota State and North Dakota. We need those guys to lose to make it black and white that we can get in. That's my overanalyzed breakdown, but I just wanted to do it to see who's at large. There could be 17 teams at large. Is there 17? 3 are staying home. So when they do the first 4 out, I don't even know who that 4th team is because they don't exist. They might be Illinois State.
Man, which one of you guys wants to hit this first?
Go ahead, Kurt.
Locked on rap. So doing the research that I didn't do as much as you, Sal. That was well done. I tried to look at like comps, right? So seemingly the Big Sky is probably, as well respected, maybe a little bit, hopefully less than we are. And the CAA, which we just found out is now the Coastal Athletic Association, not the Colonial. It looked like the Big Sky was going to get 4 because Sacramento State, I think, they just lost this weekend and they're the 4th. So you're talking, is it Idaho, Montana State, and Sac State? Is Sac State in that conference?
Yes, and Sac State's getting in. They're 6-3 with a win over Stanford.
So that's 4 from that conference.
Yeah. I
Well,
call them
pump the
at large
brakes out.
three.
So
Pump the brakes
you
out.
had 1 auto bid and then 3 at
Three
large.
at large.
And then
yeah. Montana,
same
Idaho,
with
Montana State, Sacramento State.
same with the CAA, right? Because Elon's like 5-4, but they're 4-0 in conference or something like that. So they could be champions and be 7-4. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, all their 7 or 8 or 9 win teams, because there's like Delaware 7-2, they just lost their first conference game. They can win their last 2 games, I think, have 9 wins, but not win the conference championship if Elon wins out, which takes a spot from a 4th Missouri Valley team or a 4th other team. So like the more muddier those other conferences are, the worse it is for us. Obviously, we go out there and win this week; it's huge. But I just tried to look at some of those things, but. How many teams can we get, or how many teams can we legitimately get in? Because if those conferences are each getting 4, do we have a good enough resume for our 4th team to get in? And if it's North Dakota State 7-4, Penguins 7-4, someone else 7-4, they're probably going to take those teams before us.
I want to say one more thing that was very interesting that the Montana AD said. I can't remember his name. He said when they take because we've been talking about conference. He said when they take their 14 teams at large, and he was being an extremist to make a point. He said, I don't care if all 14 teams come from the state of Montana or they all come from the Missouri Valley. Conference and region is irrelevant. We're taking the best 14 and we don't care where they come from.
Go, Kyle.
Which, hopefully.
That's the way it should be.
Val, you made it. You made a
That's his
comment
take.
that you said Sac State is in because they beat Stanford. Depending on how the rest of they play Cal Poly next. Not great, but they're playing UC Davis to end the season, who is tied with Sac State right now, 3-3 in their conference, 1 loss, 1 more loss than them. But we beat Pitt our junior year, and that did not secure us a win
I was just about
or
to say
a
that.
bid to the playoffs.
No,
So,
but that makes them 7-4. So they're in the conversation.
Right.
but then that makes me think that the Big Skies, if UC Davis beats Sac State, then the Big Sky should get probably 5 teams.
Who's the 15?
UC Davis
If UC Davis beats Sac State,
beats Sac State, and then they would be
Oh,
tied
then they'd be 5-4.
with their record.
Yeah.
But
you're
one
right.
thing I want to say is, I got the Missouri Valley standings up here. NDSU is actually below the Penguins. They're 3-3 in the conference, which is
yep.
wild to think about. We do need North
Is it?
Dakota to lose because they're 4-2 ahead of us. The problem is we don't play North Dakota this year. They were probably the one team that kept us out last year. Southern Ill is sitting at 3-3, so we definitely need them to get that win versus North Dakota State, and then we're praying that we get 4, maybe 5 teams. I think I don't want to leave it in the hands of the committee to see Youngstown State flashed up on the board and say no, and then we have to wait until we're flashed up on the board again, because Kurt and I have been in that position for 3 years, being one of the first teams out of the playoffs. And it was all because of one game or one play, because we were in so many close games that we let slip away that we shouldn't have. So, fun fact for whoever's listening, I just brought up the 2011 game versus NDSU when we were at North Dakota State and upset them. And I'm going to harp on this: 0 penalties in that game. And that's what it's going to take to beat a number 1 team, especially when we're coming off of a game where we didn't perform to our standard.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've all said if you're an 8-3 football team and you beat South Dakota State, we're probably going to have a home playoff game. I just don't see how the committee doesn't take 4 teams from our conference. I don't see how you don't take 4 from the Valley. And Sal, unbelievable job, as Kurt mentioned, on the research on this, you drive yourself crazy thinking about the what ifs and what nots. It's amazing. But if we're 7-4 and we have one loss to the number 1 team in America at Ohio State, not 63-0 either. If we lose 2 road games by a total of 6 points and we play South Dakota State, if we lose to them, close. If they get up in a room and say, okay, it's between Youngstown State and North Dakota. Well, North Dakota had to go to overtime at home to beat Indiana State. YSU went there and beat them 19-7. Northern Iowa blanked North Dakota. Didn't they rout North Dakota something like 31 something, I think? Mm-hmm. YSU goes to Northern Iowa and loses loses at the end of the game, basically, right? So that's my 7-4 stance of how we get in. And it's different. Last year, Sal, you hit it. We really didn't have a signature win, right? We were tied with North Dakota at 7-4. They beat us. So obviously that was that, I think, if that's how that shook out. And then I'm a big South Dakota, Northern Iowa fan for these last 2 weeks. If the teams ahead of us, 2 teams that beat us by a total of 6 points, keep winning, and Northern Iowa beats North Dakota State's out. I mean, they, like Kyle said, they've already got 3 losses. Does single-handedly the 4th best team in the Missouri Valley get in? Traditionally, it has been that way. Last year, the Big Sky and the CAA got both 5 teams, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, there's people talking here in town. The radio personality spoke in an event and said there's 5 or 6 teams from the Valley getting in. I don't see that. 4, I just don't see how we don't get 4 teams in the playoff. But that's my stance on 7-4. But I said we were going to go 8-3 this year, and I still stand by that.
Well, if Southern Ill wins out, they'll have wins against NDSU and Indiana State, so they would finish at 8-3 if they win out. So if they win out, I could see us
I love that,
hoping
Kurt.
that they would take.
They went out. The Bison may be out.
I'm talking about Southern Ill.
Yeah, but that means North Dakota State loses.
But then we would have a tiebreaker. Then if we're 7-4 and they're 8-3 and we got to win against them, how's that look? It's going to be a little weird. The one thing that's weird about
Did Southern Illinois play a FBS team?
Northern. They beat Northern.
They beat Northern Illinois.
Yeah, Southern Illinois is the key, guys. If we can actually legit have a signature win, I forget who you guys said that they played, but they're looking way up at the standings right now. Yeah. And of course they want to win 2 games and win out, but like, is it possible they lose their last 2 and go 6-5, and next thing you know, the committee's like, that's not that good of a win. But if they knock off a couple wins, all of a sudden we do have that signature win. I think Kyle's right on. I think Southern Ill's probably that key.
The Missouri Valley has, and you guys can see it right there, there's 5 teams with a 6-3 record.
Mm-hmm.
5.
2 more things the AD of Montana did share that was interesting. They put the 2 teams, say there's 2 7-4 teams, and they're trying to compare who's better, who's worse. They look at the losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he made it very clear that they look at the ranking of the time of the loss, unless something crazy happened, like the quarterback got injured and they went downhill. So he looks at, for example, who do we lose to and what they were ranked at that time. So our losses, again, compared to last year we got blown out by Missouri. When I say blown out, we lost well-handed to Missouri State. That's an ugly loss. We don't have an ugly loss yet.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
great point.
Ohio State, maybe that was about it.
Yeah, but hopefully
we haven't had an ugly loss. So if you look at our losses, and again, they made a big point that they hate using the word quality loss, but did you get a bad quality loss? And then if the losses aren't comparable, we can't tell who's the better team. Then they'll look at the key mark win. Who is their best win? And ours is Southern Illinois.
Yeah, and
Which
hopefully
was
they
ranked
look at it
what?
the same way because they were ranked.
They were
number
ranked
three
Yeah,
when we
they
beat
were
them.
ranked,
Exactly.
yeah, 5 in the country, and we beat their doors off. I mean, so,
Which is great for
yes,
us.
and
Right.
no
This
one
team-
in that playoff room is going to be able to stand up and say, okay, and in 2 weeks, I don't care if Ohio State loses to Michigan or not. Youngstown State went to Ohio State and got beat. What was the final? 35-7?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
is your
Penguins covered.
That's
definition.
pretty respectable.
That's your definition of a quality loss right there.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about the Penguins, and this could be good, this could be bad. I think after watching them all year and us talking and breaking down games and watching them, I think this team plays to the level of their competition. They rise to the occasion and play good teams well. We let Northern Iowa get away from us, and I truly believe we play that game 10 times, we win 7 or 8. South Dakota, we started slow. Both road games, we started slow. We were back in it, and we let that one slip away. And Indiana State, not a great team, 0-8. Yeah, we said they've been playing better, but we struggled versus them. Why are we doing that? Why are we playing good teams well and bad teams close? When are we going to play our football? When are we going to, play lights out offense and lights out defense? Because we've seen it from both sides of the ball all season. We know that they can play good offense against good defense, and we certainly know the defense can play damn good ball against a good offense in Southern Ill. So when are we going to put it together? The time's got to be now. And once again, I'll say it again, it's the penalties that are going to separate us from where we want to go. And yes, after looking at the rest of the country and seeing how the season may fall and the Missouri Valley may get 4 teams, they may get 5 teams. Why do you want to guess? Why do you want to play? Why do you want to gamble with your future and your playoff hopes? Just get the job done.
And what will be interesting is on the show next week, we'll know a lot more because either A, we beat the Jackrabbits and we'll be popping champagne and talking about our playoff run and what we're going to do, or we lose. And next week will be extremely interesting because North Dakota State is at Northern Iowa the last week, and Illinois State is at North Dakota the last week. So we're, like Cyril's saying, if we do play around, then we are going to probably have those games on our main screen and Youngstown State, Murray State on the side screen as we're really humming in on that Northern Iowa game. One pro is, as I looked at different websites on little predictions, you just Google it. All those had Youngstown State as a seed, not seed, but we're in the playoffs. Listen to a few podcasts. They all had us not in the playoffs as that's the first team in the Missouri not making the cut. A lot of negativity about our strength of schedule, but as I heard the Montana State AD, who's the chair of the committee, talk, it made me feel a lot better about our chances, whether we win or lose this game, that, all right, it's not like last year because there's not as many at-large teams that we're competing against. When you looked at last year, there was probably 20, 22 teams that could have been at-large in the conversation. Now it's maybe 16 or 17 fighting for 14 spots. So I feel a little bit better about it. Are we cool with this?
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's do it. Whew. Well, that was a lot. Let's move forward and, like my boy likes to say, let's go 1-0, and let's talk about this weekend's game. But before we do, I am going to invite listeners, those live on the YouTube Live, and even my co-host. If you are scared, you can sign off now. And to the players, if you are scared, don't come out of that locker room because number one in the country, defending champs, South Dakota State is coming to the Ice Castle. Big game, noon, ESPN Plus nationally. Let's just dive into how their season has gone so far. They started with number 2, Western Oregon, won 45-7. Key mark game as number 2 visited them, Montana State. They won 20-16 with a last-minute comeback. They blew out Drake 70-7. They hosted North Dakota 42-21. The Illinois State Redbirds, they won 40-21. Dominated Northern Iowa 41-6. Had a close game with the Salukis 17-10. That was interesting. At South Dakota, 37-3 as they dominated at their in-state rival South Dakota, and then their big rival.
Sal's got the technical difficulties now.
I lost him.
Where was he at? North Dakota?
Something like that.
Basically, they're 9-0, right?
Yeah, right.
And they've been in some close games, blowing out teams that they should, playing good teams across the country well.
Yep.
20-16 Montana State. Maybe that shows there's a little bit of vulnerability there. Who had them? Southern Hill, 17-10. And
Where was that game
at Southern Hill?
at Southern Hill?
That was at Southern Hill. So
Yeah.
maybe they struggle on the road a little bit. They certainly did there.
Yeah. I think the teams that they held on tight to or that they played close. I haven't watched every game, but if you can play up front, you can play with these guys. If you don't have it up front, man, they're gonna steamroll you. I'm telling you.
And I think that's what sets the Penguins apart from years in the past is I think we do have guys up front.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm gonna beat this horse until it's 6 feet into the ground. How disciplined are we gonna play up front? Limit those holding penalties. No jumping off sides. Holding penalties happen in games because it's in the middle of the play and things happen. But the offsides and the jumping and the false starts, like that's pre-snap. That's elementary.
Good point. Sal, we lost you real quick, so we covered the rest of the season real quick.
You hear me now?
We
Yeah,
got
we got
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry.
Sal took Kyle took us through the schedule. So
I heard
we're
y'all just fine. I didn't even know y'all lost me. My bad.
Yep.
So
And he's dead again.
you lost me again?
Yeah,
You're
just
choppy, but you're
all right.
all right.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Quick South Dakota State notes. I'll talk quicker so you don't lose me. They're the defending champs. They're on a 23-game win streak. Their last loss was September of 22 to Iowa in a snoozer, 3-7, classic Iowa game. And then our last regular season loss to an FCS team was at South Dakota in November of 21, and they lost by a field goal. Jimmy Rogers, he's a first-year head coach. He is a South Dakota State alumni linebacker who played from 05 to 09. So, Dan, he was actually a linebacker when we first played him when they joined the conference that year in 08.
Yep, I remember.
You guys are old.
And
Amen.
Sal turned 40 today.
Happy 40th,
I
Sal.
did.
Yeah.
I'm old now. And anyway, he was the GA there, and he's been coaching there since 2013 to date. So he's definitely a jackrabbit at heart, but this is his first year at the helm as their legendary coach retired after that national championship run they had. Youngstown State versus South Dakota State. The Penguins are actually 4-15 all time. The Jackrabbits are on a 4-game win streak. We're 2-8 with them coming to the Ice Castle. And the last time we played them was actually in 2021, where we lost at home 47-16. Not very good history. for us. But again, those were different years, different teams. This is a new era. And I know Dan, he had texted us before that he had the key and the answers to this game. So not only am I going to have him do the keys of the game first, but Dan, give me your scouting report.
Yeah, I mean, I think real quick, when to beat a number one team, I think from a scouting report, it's no secret. You guys have all heard it and talk about it. I think we've got to kind of bridge the gap in some ways with some form of a kicking game, special teams play. The other night I was watching the Monday night game and they were going on and on about the Jets defense and the Chargers weren't going to be able to score against them, which could have been true. They returned the opening punt for a touchdown. It kind of just changed the game. So we've blocked punts before this year. We've been pretty good on special teams. I think, and from a scouting report standpoint, I'm not going to say we know all the stats. They give up 12 points a game and score 39 or something like that. So I'm not going to pretend we're going to go out there and score 45 points against this team, but we sure can score some points. But I think that from that standpoint, how do we overcome all those things that they lead the conference in? And I think that's how we do that. We got to have a play there that either flips the field, it's a score off a punt block or punt return. Sal, you just kind of touched on it. And Kyle did too. When is the time we're going to have a signature win here with, and since when's it been? And this could be the perfect time to do that and beat this team and put all the playoff talk to rest. They've got the two guys, Gronowski and Davis, the quarterback, running back. You guys are all going to talk about that. You'll be better on some of those things. I think it comes down to we've got to be able to run the ball and make them throw the ball. We're not going to beat them. Their key has always been they control the line of scrimmage. They run the ball. And I've always felt they've been a team that throws off the run. You guys played against them, Sal. You watched more film on South Dakota State, and the numbers are the numbers. Remember the first time we went out there in 2008? It was like I'm not sure how to describe it. It was just, they had everything over us. Yeah, it was just, and they've been I've said this before, I thought they've been in the last decade as much the standard bearer of this conference as North Dakota State. They didn't win all the titles. They just won one last year, and now they've beat North Dakota State 4 years in a row. So from a scouting report, I don't know what more you could say about this team. They're just good. They're defending national champs 20-some games in a row. They don't, Kyle touched on it. They don't do those. They're not having those kind of penalties. Though, Sal, you said a couple weeks ago, are they the most penalized team in the conference?
They are.
There you go, which is surprising to see. So, there's maybe some discipline issues there at times, but they're just really good. You want keys to the game now too, or are we just a quick scouting report?
No, scouting report. But to your point, that just means they're that good that they make the penalties and they're still undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, they're just it is what it is, guys. I mean, they're a good football team. They're well coached. I remember their head coach was the linebacker, and I remember, Sal, you remember some of those scouting reports about that guy. He was like an animal. He was averaging, I don't know how many tackles a game. They're just like him. I watched his interview after the game against North Dakota State. He looked like they got beat 50-3. He was salty, and they somewhat dominated that game against the Bison. So this team is exactly Sal's line. They are who we think they are. And they're that good. So that's it. I don't need to go on any further about what kind of team this is.
Curdy, in your scouting report, please include in this readout that I don't know if you made it up and just trying to make it a thing or if it's actually a thing. Hit it.
Yeah, I completely am all behind the bandwagon of the red out. All right, it is a red out this weekend, so everybody's wearing red. We're all going to be there, right? Everybody in this podcast, we're all going, or what? No, okay. Yeah, so I got to dive in a little bit today on the defensive side of the ball. There's probably 5 or 6 guys that I could highlight. I'm going to highlight 2 of them because I think they're probably the leaders that you're looking for, and then listening to Coach talk, I mean, this is the standard of the Valley right now, and it's the standard of the Valley because this is the team you want to be on. This is the team you want to coach. And if you're a player for another team, this is the team that you want to beat. And that's how you know that it's the standard. So, 11, 12 points a game, which is insane. They've only given up 12 touchdowns all season on defense. They've forced 18 turnovers and they've only given 7. So they're plus 11 right now in turnover margin, which is pretty insane. First guy I'm going to highlight, let me give it to you. Jason Freeman here. Jason Freeman, number 11, he is the linebacker and their leading tackler. Fun fact about him, he was all conference in 2022. He's an NAIA transfer out of Olivier Nazarene. And ever since he's gotten here, I think he's had guys ahead of him. He's beaten them out. And he's all over the field. He will play the screen really well. He plays the run really well. Him and the other safeties that they have that I'm going to mention here in a little bit, they will not allow us to throw out quick screens, and they're going to be TFLs. If we throw quick screens and try to extend the run game like we did against Indiana State, and Max had like 10 catches or something like that, if we try to do that, these guys will fill so fast they will be TFLs. The other guy that I want to highlight is, Searle knows I have like an obsession with D linemen right now, and they're all that I'm really watching in the NFL. Because I texted him, I was like, "Yo, I got a couple of my favorite players. It's Myles Garrett right now, and it's Aiden Hutchinson." So I got to show you number 94, Cade Turvier. This dude is legitimately not just number and elbow brace. Like, he's Sam Hubbard to me. And he is a great run blocker. He has 6 sacks, I think, on the year. 6 TFLs and five sacks on the season. The dude is a motor guy. I was watching the NDSU game, and he dropped back into coverage towards the boundary. The quarterback scrambled, and he rolled towards the field. And this dude, 94, and I mean, you can tell when a guy's sprinting, right? Like, he's just hauling ass. And he probably ran 53 yards, never even touched the quarterback. The quarterback ran out of bounds, but it was like, he was busting his ass from one side of the field all the way to the other side of the field. Didn't touch the guy. Didn't affect the play at all. Dropped into zone from a D lineman perspective. And it's like, how many guys have we played with that dropped back in zone, saw the play going the other way, and just gave up because this dude's 50 yards down the field? This dude was sprinting, and I guarantee you, like, he's their locker room guy right now. So definitely part of building that culture and building that standard. They have phenomenal safeties, and I'm not going to highlight any other guys, but Herder, Large, and Reeder in the back end. I think they play 3 or 4 safeties back there, and they're ball hawks. They were what the Bison were when we were playing about 10 years ago, where if you threw something short, we would hit for Andre Stubbs. We'd throw that little option route, that early RPO, and those guys would tackle him at 2 or 3 yards. And it was like, well, we're not running that again because we have no space to run it. Those safeties, they cover like that. They play their gaps just like they did 10 years ago when we played them. I think they've taken the next step in terms of like ability, aggression, and explosiveness. Very opportunistic. And after this, I'll be done. I promise you I'll move on. But just watching the NDSU game, let's see. SDSU was winning with about 9 or 10 minutes left to go in the half. It was 7-6. And NDSU took 3 shots in the red zone, did not score a touchdown. Settled for a field goal. Bison go up 9-7. Again, 8 or 9 minutes left in the half. Okay. SDSU drives down the field. They kick a field goal. So they're now up 10-9. NDSU fumbles. The Bison fumble. SDSU gets the ball. Field goal. 3 and out from the Bison. SDSU big play. Half's over. SDSU gets the ball. After 2.5, 3 possessions, it's 27-9. So the margin for error in this game is so slim because this is what good teams do. I mean, it was remarkable. I swear I looked at my phone while I was watching the game, and like a minute later, I'm like, wait, how the heck is the score 27-9 already? I had to go back and rewatch it. They're opportunistic as it comes. Fumbles, interceptions, those things are going to happen, and they will kill you in this game. So I know we've talked about penalties. I know we've talked about turnovers. You do it against this defense, they will make you pay. This defense is pretty damn good, and they're a national championship defense, man. And I think they lost some, and they've reloaded. They've reloaded.
Cyril, I don't know if you could chew bubble gum and walk at the same time, but I hope you can keep up with this conversation and monitor that YouTube chat at the same time because it is live
Yeah,
tonight. It is
it
I don't
is.
know if it's
Yeah,
never been this active.
and I think Jacob Zinni had a great point. He said the best D might be playing some O and grinding that clock, and we got, I think,
Run the ball.
one thing I said earlier, we got some guys up front this year that maybe we didn't have in years past where we can run the ball. We got two backs, rotate them in and out. We're going to be fresh up there. But getting into the defense, our defensive line, like I said all season, we got two defensive lines. We don't have twos. We got 1As and 1Bs that just rotate seamlessly. And I think, that's a huge advantage that we're going to have playing that front for SDSU because them boys are big. They're mean. They play mean, and like Kurt said, I was thinking the same thing, that these guys will capitalize on any mistake. Their offense will capitalize on a turnover. Their defense will capitalize on a underthrown ball, all kinds of stuff. Poor ball security. So getting into it, they are national championship caliber team. Their stats back it up. They're batting 58% on third down conversions. That's pretty good. It's pretty high percentage of success for them. They've been in fourth downs a few times. I think they had a couple against Montana State when they were playing that close game. They're 4 for 6 on fourth down conversions. They have scored 34 times in the red zone on 35 visits, and 29 of those are touchdowns. So that is a big key is to, and we'll get into it later, is not letting them in the red zone if we can. Mark Gronowski, their quarterback, and Mark Gronowski and Isaiah Davis have. I was going to start writing down their accolades and recognitions and awards and stuff, but they're deep. They got them all, and so they're good. Mark Gronowski is completing 68.5% of his passes. He has 18 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, so he takes pretty good care of the ball there. Averaging about 193 yards per game. Kurt, I appreciate you throwing up the fancy
Yeah, dude.
little artwork there.
You want Isaiah Davis too?
Yeah, I want Isaiah Davis.
Let's go, bro.
Isaiah Davis. Let's go. Bring him up.
It's a professional thing we got going on here.
There he is, Isaiah Davis.
Dog.
Great runner. Probably going to see him on Sundays. Averaging 6.8 yards per carry. Very explosive. Got 9 touchdowns on the year. Averages 96 yards per game. And I will say he has a couple games that are subpar performances for him. So if you remove those subpar performances, he's definitely over that 100-yard per game mark. He had 66 yards versus Montana State. Pretty good defense, pretty good team. He had 69 yards versus South Dakota. We know South Dakota got some big boys up front. Can play a little bit of deep, playing some good ball this season. So I think YSU's run defense is built for this challenge. Like I said, our 2 defensive lines that we have just got to stay after those guys. Stay disciplined. Stay disciplined. Stay playing hard. If shit happens in the middle of the play, let it roll off your shoulder and move on to the next one. Don't kill a play before it even starts. That's what I got.
Not many teams that we've played that I could do this, but when I did my scouting report, I actually just Googled NFL prospects FCS because I knew they have a lot.
I got 1 point from the chat. Michael Metzinger, this guy's got all the stats. We need to get this guy as a part of our team somehow.
No doubt.
I believe Metz is a CPA. They know all that stuff, man. He's
on it because when we beat them in 2017, they were ranked number 5. And this is tagging on Jacob Zinni's point of our best defense is going to be offense and time of possession. We held the ball for 45 minutes.
The ball.
It's wild.
3/4 of the game.
Well, when we that's an interesting stat. Well, when I went ahead and Googled, and these are draft picks, not just NFL guys. So draft picks, they have Isaiah Davis, running back, NFL prospect in the draft. Zach Hines, their tight end, an NFL prospect. Garrett Greenfield, offensive tackle. If you put all three of those guys together, that is a hell of a running situation. Quick stats, we like to call the money down, third down conversions. South Dakota State's #1 in the country in third down conversions. Total defensive yards given up, their defense is #2 in the country. So their defense is even better than their offense. Isaiah Davis on all-purpose yards, their running back's #28 in the country, but he's actually #1 in our conference. And he's actually #12 amongst running backs in yards per attempts. So he gets a lot of yards. They've been running the same offense since we were in school, guys, and it's just that 12 personnel, which for our listeners, that's a running back and 2 tight ends. And what they do is they like to put 1 tight end on the line, and then the other guy is more of like a fullback / tight end. They're running that pistol set with a tight end will be next to the quarterback, and then they'll either motion or shift him up to the line, and then he'll either pull to the other side or he'll lead block or he'll even go out for the pass. I still remember, Searle, your freshman year, and Kurt, when we ran that scout team with Charball and Searle were my tight. Just so you guys know, Searle was a tight end back in his prime, and they would always run. And I still remember Coach Haycock pulling me aside and saying, "If it's a pass play to the tight end, you better damn well sure Charball's the one that's on the receiving end."
Wow.
Yeah, so Charball was always.
So I
the
ran
one.
98% of the snaps in practice that week.
Yeah, you did. They always ran it. So
Charball get all
was
the
always-
receptions.
He was always on he was always the guy on the line, and then Searle was always the one that would have to shift in motion and lead block for the guy. So their running game is very good, and not to take away from the quarterbacks. I don't want to say he's a bad quarterback. He's definitely very good. But when you have to load 8 people in the box, it's very easy to play quarterback when you got no safety over the top. So that's the breakdown. A lot of shifts, a lot of motions, a lot of confusion, and they're just going to try to run the ball. I'm going to shift real quick. Let me get my music here. Before we get the keys of the game, I know we haven't done story time at all, and I didn't really put it on the script. Any South Dakota State stories off the top of your head that anyone wants to share?
Dude, how about when the offense had to get dressed in a 0-degree weather in a tent, getting high on kerosene heaters?
I was going to mention the bathroom, how there had the 2 toilets and the shower head was between the 2 toilets and there was no curtains. So you'd be taking a shower and 2 dudes would be on the toilets. Their facilities, at least before they got serious, were below par, I would say.
Yeah.
Dude, I haven't been there since. Did they upgrade the visitors' locker room?
Oh, there's a new
Talked about it
stadium.
like it's God's gift.
Their new stadium's unbelievable.
See?
Yeah, but I would still leave I would leave the shitty away locker room for the opposing teams.
I agree, but their new visiting locker rooms, and you can't even call it night and day to what the old stadium was. And
Cyril, isn't this the place where Coach Wolf called the D-line or Aronde just pussies? And then Aronde got up real quick, and he
I'm
was
pretty
like,
sure.
"Ain't nobody ever gonna call me a pussy."
This is a family show.
He's like, "F that, dog! No, call me a pussy." And then Aronde went out there, and Aronde, I think, had a
Shout out Aronde, we love you, dog.
like a tipped
No, he had
somebody
like a
tipped the ball,
scoop
he interception, and
yeah.
I can't remember if it was a tipped pass that he intercepted or a scoop and score, but
Yeah.
he got in the end zone that game. He was behind the line of scrimmage the rest of the second half, and honestly, like that's the mentality that we need from our guys. Like just play, just pissed off, and honestly, play like you don't have tomorrow. And I guess we're getting into the keys of the game, but
No,
we can get into that.
I threw a pick. I think that same game, and we weren't playing well offensively. I think this was the one where it was like 31-20 or something. We were just never even close. I threw a pick, and Monty's rule was like if you ever throw a pick, like you better be sure you bring him down. Don't let him score. And dude crossed me up. I was the only one out there because I threw it out to the flat. Crossed me up, gave me a move. I dropped down to the floor and tripped him, stuck my leg out, which I think is illegal. I think tripping's 15 yards or whatever. And I get over to the sideline, and it's hey, get Kurt on a headset or whatever. And I get on the headset, and he goes, "Hey, did you trip that guy?" I said, "Yeah, I tripped." He goes, well, and he's like pissed off at me already. He goes, "Well, good job getting him down." Jeez. It's just like, hey, good job. There was no penalty or anything, and I think the other sideline wanted it or whatever. But I remember getting on the headset and like clearly I did something illegal. He's like, "Well, good job getting him down."
Dude,
Such a money thing to say.
The last college football game Kurt and I ever played was for South Dakota State.
Oh,
and for all you guys that are saying, "Hey, man, it would be awesome to play in the snow," I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't fun playing in the snow. And
Come on, don't say that. It might snow Saturday. You never know.
Really?
Nah.
I don't know. It's Northeast Ohio. Because, well, think about it. When we came out of the tunnel, it was beautiful. It was a 50-degree day, not a cloud in the sky.
Senior day.
And
Yeah.
senior day. And then that was for warm-ups. We come out, do like the parents thing on the field, and it starts to get gray. And then by the second quarter, you couldn't see the sideline because it was coming down that heavy, that fast, that hard. And I remember they like shoveled the lines during halftime, and God, we had those garbage, god awful Under Armour cleats, and I will never buy a pair of Under Armour shoes to this day because of my experience with their cleats.
Right, same.
Because I specifically remember, pretty sure this is the only missed tackle that like I can think of is like I got a packed like round dome of snow under my shoe. I'm like 2 inches off the ground because it's packed into my cleats, and I'm like running from the tight end down the sideline. Like I dive out and I just like slide off this guy, and I was pissed because it was like I'm gonna blame it on the snow. It packed in my shoes, but yeah, that goes to show like if we won that game, we were 200% in the playoffs, and that's what I want to stress to these guys is don't leave it in the hands of somebody else. Like this team is very talented. This team can beat this team, but it's going to take some effort. It's going to be the hardest game you play all year. And just handle the business that you got in front of you.
All right. Cyril, I don't know if that was story time or keys of the game or both. But
It was both. I mean, it was story time because it's just there's always keys of the game and old stories, all right?
there
Get
is.
off me.
Life lessons.
Old man wisdom.
Yeah, that's it.
Amen.
Well, I said, Dan, before I do my keys of the game, it sounded like you had all the answers, so I'm going to take it to you first.
Me? Oh, yeah, I got all the answers for sure.
Keys
Yeah.
of the game and score prediction. Let's hear it, brother.
Well, I got 3 simple keys to the game, but if you let me, I'm gonna talk fast because I got a little reason why I got these kind of keys to the game. In my mind, it's real simple with a team this good. I kind of want to look at the run game as who's going to win the rushing title. Isaiah Davis is leading the conference in yards. Tyshawn King's about 100 and so yards behind him. I would like to see Tyshawn King win the rushing title in the league this year. So that means we've got to really shut down Isaiah Davis. If he goes off for 200 some yards, we're in trouble. I think this might be the game or the game that might decide who's going to be the first team quarterback in the Missouri Valley Conference. Is it going to be Mitch Davidson or Mark Gronowski? So our quarterbacks got to win that battle. And then the typical one, but we're close in some of the turnover standards in the conference. Will we be the team that leads sacks after this game? If we can get a handle on those, force fumbles, and Troy Beck's got like 4 picks on the year, I believe. Can he get to 5 or 6, or can we get 2 picks? So in my mind, that's it. I see us. My prediction along with that, before I go into why I think these things are, or some similarities, is 26-20 that we win this game. But those 3 things we got to do. We've got to win the rushing title. We got to have the best quarterback in the conference after this game, and we've got to have that turnover kind of standard go our way. Real quick, I want to go back to in 2014. YSU went to Brookings and beat South Dakota. First time we had beat them. They were just from 08 through 13. You guys talked about some of those games. They manhandled us. I think 2010 was close. Remember they called that garbage call on Josh Lee. Shout out to Josh. But in 2014, we went out there. We won the game 30-27. And these stats give you a glimpse on how even a team like this that might dominate the stats, we can still win. They had 26-18 edge in first downs. They had 329 yards passing. We had 256. Total offensive yards were about the same. Possession time, they had 36. We only had it 23 minutes. They were 9 of 18 on third down. We were 4 of 11. But we had some key things. Our guy, Hunter Wells, he threw 6 to Andrew Williams, 5 to Stubbs, 3 to our guy, Jelani Barasa. Martin Ruiz ran for 138 yards. Zach Zenner was the running back. Remember how good he was?
Yeah, Detroit Lions.
Yep. Held him kind of in check. And talk about Kyle talking about some things, some of those key stats as far as a difference that I think could be in this game. We had 6 sacks that day. 6 sacks against South Dakota State. You know, the team, you can't get to them. They dominate. And we won that game, but we didn't really dominate the stats. And, they were kind of going up and down the field, but our defense was bending but wasn't breaking. So I think that's kind of fast forward almost a decade. They're coming here now that we can talk about how good they are, and they are. That's why they're 9-0 and the defending champs. But you've got to find a way, this team, to make a few plays. And maybe it's not a pick 6 or dominating the team, but it's get them off the field on third down like they're leading the conference. They can't go, 12 of 17 on third down. We're in trouble if they do that. So all of those little things that add up in the end that just, okay, maybe they do possess the ball longer than us and they don't. But if we have 5 or 6 sacks and maybe we get a pick and we dominate the line of scrimmage, we're going to win that game. And that was, I think, Wolf's last year. It was such a change from when the first time we went out there in the game, Kurt, you were just talking about. So we were able to kind of overcome some of that stuff and get a win. And I really think we're capable of that, more than capable of that. We don't, I've said it before, we don't have to take a back seat to anyone. Coach Phillips and his staff do a great job making adjustments at halftime. They've recruited well. We're strong both up front, O-line, D-line. We're physical. And who was it that chimed in? Jacob Zinni, right?
Yep.
And Big Zen basically nailed it. We have got to run the football to win this game. Mitch will have his moments, but we got 2 good running backs. We got to find a way to just be patient and run the football. And I got us winning 26-20. I think this is the time and the moment for a big signature win. I really do.
Absolutely. My keys of the game are much just to the point. On offense, I hate to call a spade. The offense is not going to win us this game. And that's not a insult to the offense. The South Dakota State defense is that good. The offense needs to just not turn it over and they need to hold on to the ball to let the defense rest. The game is going to be run on the defensive side of the ball, and it's going to be the front seven, the defensive line, and the linebackers. This is a run-first, power South Dakota State team. That's not just their strength, that's also our strength. And that's why I love this matchup, because if anyone's going to take down South Dakota State, it has to be someone that has a great front seven of the linebackers and D-line, and that's Youngstown State, and it's Youngstown State at home. If this game's at South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits win 1,000,000-0. The fact that it's at home, we are a different team at home. For better or worse, we are. And we're going to need our defense to step up, and those third down plays, we need to be on the winning side of those money downs and shut them down, win the time of the possession, and our offense just needs to make sure that they don't do anything stupid. They take advantage of the opportunities that South Dakota State gives us and just slow the pace of the game down so our defense has the time to get some water, get some rest, because they got to get their butt back out there and they need to dominate the South Dakota State offensive line. I have us winning, well, before I say our points, South Dakota State hasn't given up more than 21 points a game, and that was to North Dakota and Illinois State and North Dakota both scored 21 and they both lost. So 21 is not enough points. We need 24 points. So I have us winning 24-21 YSU. And again, if it's at South Dakota State, we have no shot. The fact that it's in the Ice Castle, I'm with you, Dan. This is our signature moment to bring the program to the next level.
Yeah, an interesting thing I heard today as I was listening to, I forget what I was listening to. They were talking about the Penn State and Michigan game and how do you beat Michigan, right? Michigan is right now probably the best team in college football. Great defense, great offense. I think their passing game is actually better than their run game this year statistically. But they're known for running the ball, doing a lot of motions, hitting some big plays, lulling your secondary to sleep, and very similar to South Dakota State. If we're given a comp, that's probably the comp. And they were saying Penn State needs to be aggressive early and really go for some big plays, try to be explosive, soften up their safety, soften up their secondary. And so I think we really have to be aggressive early. Obviously, like I love the offensive coaching staff. I think we've done a great job all year. Really, it comes down to what is my key to the game, which is just doing your job. And I remember going back and winning against North Dakota State at North Dakota State when they were number one in the nation. I think that was 2011. We had so many plays that turned into bigger plays just by guys doing their job. And it's the end of the half. I don't know if we're tied or if we're down. We run a simple option play. We're probably at the 30 or 40-yard line, not even driving, maybe just running out the clock. We call speed option. Do your job. Take it to the defender who you're reading. Pop it out to Jordan Thompson. Jordan Thompson takes it like 59 yards all the way down to the 1. All of a sudden, we got 11 seconds left in the half. We were trying to run out the clock. All we did was our job, right? He runs out of bounds. We score on the next play. All we did was do our job. We're grinding out the clock late in that game. A little bit of play action. Christian Bryan running a Virginia route, right? So he's got a little bit of an inside stem choice route. He just did his job. He broke out to the outside. We hit for 11, first down, right? These types of games reveal your character, and all you have to do is do your job. We've seen a ton of talented players that have been on our team, and in these games, they try to do too much. And if you try to do too much, you end up messing up and making a mental mistake, making a physical error, bad technique here or there, trying to do too much. You don't need to do too much against these guys. These guys are very good. But the minute that you take your foot off the gas or the minute that you want to try to do too much, they'll expose you. And that's what happens in these types of games. So my key to the game is be aggressive early offensively, but everybody, just do your job. You will be in it in the end. I promise you. I think that we get down early, 14-0. I think we climb all the way back, take the lead 24-21, and I think South Dakota State escapes the Ice Castle with a win 28-24.
Curdy,
Well,
you did it.
you want to add on?
Big dog. Big dog.
Oh, okay. I thought I was muted there for a second. Yeah, two things about these two teams that are going to take the field Saturday is they've both been in close games. Unfortunately for the Penguins, we've lost a couple close games. South Dakota State has won a couple, and to I forget, was it Sal's point? They're holding their average points against is 11.8, so under 12 points per game. I think the key to the game is going to be the defensive line. All 8 guys playing behind the line of scrimmage, playing discipline, playing hard, leaving everything they have out there, and knowing that they have 1Bs or the 1As or whatever we want to call them, but knowing that the guy that's going to come in is going to do the same thing and leave it all out there, because what would Coach Wolf say? The clip. That leave it all out there. 5 to 6 seconds a clip.
Fucking
All right.
clip.
And no penalties. What did I say? 2010 when we beat NDSU, we had 0 penalties. And that's what it's going to take to beat a team like South Dakota State. Very good on offense, even better on defense. And I want to see the boys create their own destiny and not leave it in the hands of the committee. And I got them winning 30-28, and that's a big ask. That's a big ask from the offense.
Yeah,
to go put
Youngstown
points
winning
up like
30-28.
I have Youngstown winning 30-28, and that's if all the keys to the game are laid out there. No penalties, playing hard, playing fast, rotating that defensive line. Because in the fourth quarter, this South Dakota State team is going to still be coming at us, period. They're not going to lay down and die if they are down by
No.
touchdown, or if they're tied, they're not going to do it. So the entire defense needs to just be ready to buckle it up and play for 60 minutes. And hey, maybe we see an overtime game. Maybe it's that exhausting and that brutal of a game, is that we're just going back and forth. So 30-28 Penguins.
Cyril, YouTube live chat. I think I saw a bunch of other score predictions. You want to chat those out?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna give a shout out to Mets. He had 2 scores. Mets. We're all homers here. Penguin friendly podcast. So I'm gonna give your heart score. He has the Penguins winning 31-28. Penguin Nation has them winning 27-26. Joe has them winning 42-41. Jason Crum has them winning 38-31. Nico has them winning 42-38. I think I missed Richard Wolf. Let me see if I can find it in here real quick. Yeah, Richard Wolf's got him winning 38-35. And before I get to Demo, and Demo's score is close too, is we need to win a close game. We're not expecting to dominate this game. We're not expecting to have our foot on the gas the entire game. We're going to need to play through some adversity. And the good thing is we've had adversity this year. I think this team plays great through it. Sometimes I said maybe we create our own. And if we're dealing with the adversity that we create and the adversity that South Dakota State creates, I don't think we win this game. So I think we need to play a flawless game and play through South Dakota State's adversity. And then I saved Demo's for last because it's just classic. And he says, Penguins win 27-24. Stakes after South Dakota State. Say yes.
Say yes. Say yes.
So the locker room, my guys from 2012 know what we're talking about. Or was it 11 we played Michigan State?
11.
It was 11. 2011. We never did get those stakes, so that was.
Or those red coats. Weren't they going to get us red suit coats? Shout out Larissa.
I don't remember, but we didn't get any of that stuff. Now all these boys temperature drops to 51 and they go get some leggings and them little face covers and stuff, I think they just
He
be
came
like,
in,
yo, there's an opportunity to get some gear. Let me get some from
Let's
Alvy
keep-
and Tim.
dude.
Let's keep moving.
I'm chilly.
That same speech. Remember, Larisha came in, and he was real close to the program that time. There was an article written about Obina, like that week before he came in, and here's this little dude going, "Where's O'Bean?
Yep.
Where's O'Bean?" And it was like everybody's pointing, like it's that dude over there. Obina, no lie, was twice his size.
Yeah, remember he held Obina's hand and he was looking up at him? Remember
Just
in front of the
looking up at
team
him.
meeting room? Yeah. That's
He's
because
like,
he
look
just.
at him.
That's because he rolled into
Gazelle.
the staff
Guy
room and
kills
he's like,
gazelles.
yeah,
Hunts down and kills gazelles.
yeah.
He hunts gazelles.
shit.
The O'Bean.
Let's keep going. We're an hour and a half into this thing.
Oh, jeez.
All
Dude,
right,
it's an
let's,
important show.
let's get
It
to
is.
the picks of the week around the valley. But before we do, turn it over to Searle.
Once again, the picks brought to you by Leiden Oil Company. Just absolutely incredible family, providing all your fuel and lubricant needs across Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and beyond. Quality lubricants, competitive prices with exceptional service. And we thank the Leiden family for all their dedication to the Penguin programs, fueling their success.
All right, boys, let's get through this quickly as we're definitely going overtime. We talked about South Dakota State for 3 years, I feel like. Let's answer, of course, in the order: Kurt, myself, Kurt, Dan, Searle, and give you who you think is going to win the game and who's going to win the spread. First game, Murray State is at Illinois State, 12 p.m. The home team, the Illinois State Redbirds, are favored. They are a minus 15.5 favorite. I think they're going to both win and cover.
I think Illinois State wins but does not cover. Murray State keeps it close.
Illinois State win and cover.
I got Murray State covering the points, Illinois State winning.
That'll be a fun one now. South Dakota State is at the Ice Castle, Youngstown State, 12 p.m. The Jackrabbits are a minus 16-point favorite. I believe we all picked Youngstown State in the points. Kurt would be the only one that picked South Dakota State to win, but he did pick the Penguins in the points. So that is a wash. Western Illinois Leathernecks are at Indiana State, 1 p.m. Indiana State, a minus 6.5 favorite. Whew, this is tough as Western Illinois is not very good, but Indiana State just has zero offense. But I think they will find a way to at least score 7. I'm got Sycamores winning and covering.
I got the Sycamores winning and covering too, based on their front seven. And that tailback looked pretty good on that screen touchdown, man. But nobody blocks on that offense. So win and cover, Sycamores.
Sycamores win and cover.
Sycamores cover.
North Dakota at South Dakota, big playoff implement game, 1 p.m. South Dakota, the home team, is a minus 8.5 favorite. I have South Dakota winning and covering, mostly for my bias, because we need South Dakota just to really run North Dakota off the rails.
Yeah, I'll take the same.
Make that 3. South Dakota win and cover.
Dude, Sal, you've been low on South Dakota all year. Now you're cheering for them.
I need them.
I think South Dakota is going to win and cover.
I need them. I
just
don't
like
know what
that they're
happened to
called
North
the
Dakota,
Yotes.
but
The
ever since
Yotes.
they beat North Dakota State, they're
Yotes.
off the
Yeah,
they're
but
off
North
the
Dakota
rails.
beat North Dakota State too.
And North Dakota State stinks.
Yeah, they do. Northern Iowa at Missouri State, 3 p.m. UNI is a minus 7.5 favorite. I don't want to say it's a trap game, but it's Northern Iowa's going to win the game. But I have a funny feeling about this one. Northern Iowa doesn't play extremely well at the Unidome. I am going Missouri State on the points.
I'll take Northern Iowa to win and cover.
I'm taking Northern Iowa to win and cover just because I'm rooting for them to keep winning, which is odd. But
Give me Northern Iowa with the alternative spread with double digit Give me 10.
Ooh.
All right, another massive playoff
Implication.
What it is. Thank you, sir. Southern Illinois is at North Dakota State, 3:30 p.m. North Dakota State Bison, the home team, is a minus 3-point favorite. Again, I'm a little biased, but we need Southern Illinois to win and cover, so I have them winning and covering. And, of course, I think the Bison are dead anyway.
I think the Bison will win. Win and cover. They're at home, man.
Since I have no chance of catching Kurt in this contest for the year, I'm rooting for Southern Illinois, I'm gonna just go with them. They're gonna win.
Guys, every time I think about North Dakota State playing in the Fargo Dome, I just think and remember about the whole place smelled like cinnamon rolls. It was so good. It was so good.
For real.
I have the Bison winning, unfortunately. I don't want it, but I got to get another point on the board, so NDSU to win.
That's going to be a fun one to watch. That'll be the game I'm definitely watching in the afternoon. Interesting out-of-conference game that there wasn't really much out of FCS, but one that caught my eye. As many of you guys know, Air Force Academy was the Cinderella favorite. Everyone fell in love with it. Army went and just kicked their butt and dominated last week, and no one saw it coming. Hats off the Army. Here comes FCS Holy Cross headed to West Point to take on Army at noon on CBS Sports. And weirdly enough, Army is an underdog. Holy Cross is a 10.5-point favorite. They're minus 10.5. Holy Cross at Army going to an FBS school after they just dominated. I think it's very strange. Someone knows something I don't at Vegas potentially, but I'm going with Army to win and cover. I don't know. I think they're money line. I don't understand the spread.
Take Holy Cross to win, but it'll be close.
Well, mainly because two of my best friends from high school went to West Point. One was a captain on the football team. I never go against Army, so the Black Knights, they win.
What'd Kurt pick?
Holy Cross to keep it close.
Is that a cover?
No, not cover. Army will keep it close.
Okay.
Then give me Holy Cross with the cover.
My dude. All right, well, that's the picks. Cyril, before we log it up and shut the show down, any more YouTube comment, shout-outs, or questions for us to go over?
Let me look here. I mean, I just want to say thanks to everyone that jumps in the chat. I mean, you guys bring another dimension to the show. We love throwing your little takes out there. Zinni, Metz, Demo, Richard Wolf, as always, Penguin Nation, Nico, Quigley's in there. You know, just once again, thank you guys. So smash the like button, give us a thumbs up, spread the word, and just tune in next week. Hopefully, we're talking about a victory and talking about playing Missouri State for some, or Murray State for some show points here.
If we win this weekend, we can just forfeit and not go to Murray State. Just whatever. Rest up. Kurt, any Instagram shout-outs, questions, anything more to add before you shut it down?
No way, dude. Happy birthday, Sal. Let's go. You want us to sing to you or no?
Yeah, let's sing to happy.
You sure?
Come on, Sal.
Dude,
Come on.
40.
Okay.
I'll have to edit it out of the show anyway.
I'll forever remember your birthday because that is how we used to get into your truck. So.
Oh,
Yo.
that's right. That's right. The code has changed for anyone that's listening.
Yeah,
The code has
Spotify. Jesus.
Man, I met Sal when he was just a pup, man. Wow.
changed. Yeah,
Man.
out of high school.
Now look at you. You got a baby and everything.
Can I throw out one quick analytic real quick? I promise. 15 seconds. You know, I hate predictions and analytics. I don't know. But here's an interesting thing. I was watching OU and Buffalo last night. The head coach at OU has, I don't know, math kind of scenario about how he judges wins and losses. He adds up interceptions, fumbles lost, sacks, drops, penalties, and divides it by total offensive plays. If you're 12% or less, you got an 88% chance to win. YSU's 2 losses on the road, we were 12%. I don't have the drop stats. I have the other stats. 12% at UNI, but we lost. We were 20% at South Dakota, so we didn't win. With SIU, we were 11%. In the barometer, it gives you an 88% chance win. These are all without drops. So let's see how we are on next week when we add up interceptions, fumbles lost, sacks, drops, and penalties that drive Kyle crazy, divided by offensive play. See where we're at. For 12% or under, we basically got a 90% chance to win, according to a Division I head coach.
I don't know. I think these boys listen to the show because if I see a offsides penalty, I might come through the glass and
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Paul, the Line family,
like,
the Line family might have to write a check if you go through that window there. You know,
if we get
they're in
blown,
Florida,
if there's
so-
some penalties, Cyril's not coming on the show next week.
If you jump through the
Keep it
window,
PG.
Paul's jumping right behind you.
amen.
No,
Yep.
Paul's out of town. But
That's bad juju,
know,
man. Bad juju there.
Woo!
I might go tell Alvy. I'll be like, "Yo, give me that kid's 33 jersey. I think it's Preston. I'm going in, man. I got one series.
Yeah.
Not 34. It has to be 33.
87.
Yeah.
Let's go. Anything else before we lock it up?
You lock it up.
You better lock it up."
Once again, South Dakota State is at the Ice Castle at noon this Saturday on ESPN Plus. For those of you who are not local, you can subscribe and watch it through there. We are on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast, that Kurt monitors. Please make sure you follow him, ask him any questions, leave us any feedback or comments. And of course, we are on YouTube live streaming. Traditionally, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. We've been pretty bad the last few weeks. We are recording here Wednesday at 8:30, a little late start. Follow the Instagram page to get the live updates on if there's any delays in our podcast. Please listen next week, as next week will be extremely interesting, as we'll have a better, clearer picture of the playoff picture and where we stand in it. Definitely follow us anywhere you can get your podcast. Share it, like it, subscribe, comment, give us a 5-star review. Anything you can do to help promote the show. And thank you to everyone that logged on to YouTube Live tonight. You guys were awesome. It was very active. But again, I'm your host, Sal Guardo. That is Kyle Searle. That is Kurt Hess. And that is Dan Cobb. And again, we are the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, go Penguins.